Good evening, everyone. This is the Board of Selectmen, Warren, Massachusetts, May 15th, 2025 at 6 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast via our local cable access channel, WCAT, Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. If anyone in the audience is recording, just let us know. If you need to speak, go to the microphone and tell us who you are and who you represent, or if you're just a resident. And we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. You can stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so first up, we have a presentation and discussion with Deep Roots Distillery.
My name is Keith Deverin. I'm one of the owners for Deep Roots Distillery. I've spoken to most of you already when we had the planning board meeting, but we're just trying to put out feelers if the town would be welcoming for having a pouring permit at 1212 Southbridge Road. The property's for sale is 30 acres. We're looking to build a facility, or not a facility, but a small space where we'll have production, tasting room, small restaurant. The planning board said they were open to the idea of us having the restaurant there because we need a special permit. Now we're just wondering if the board would be open to the idea of having the pouring permit there also.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So it is zoned correctly, so you can have an alcohol.
Sorry, can you pass that?
Yep. An establishment serving alcohol as long as you have food on premises. So you're
Okay,
gonna
yep.
do that, right?
Yes.
In rural, okay. All right. Do you have any questions?
See if there's any questions or concerns for what we're going to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
doing
Let
there.
me, do you have questions to start off?
Yeah, I got a few questions. You're currently in Sturbridge, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And are you the axe throwing place too?
Yes.
Okay, will you have axe throwing at that site
We
also?
are thinking yes, but on a much smaller scale, just maybe 4 lanes to give people something to do
Okay.
when they come, just as an add-on.
Okay.
Would that be an issue, or because we're not married to the axe throwing? That's just
No, no.
Okay.
No, I just was, seen your current setup and how you have it set up in Sturbridge. I was just wondering what you would be doing here. And now, something that is very important to us in the community is to make sure that you fit in the community. So like no giant neon signs, no things like that. It has to fit within the neighborhood, the design. So you'd be removing the house.
we'd be removing the house, putting a building similar that would have, yeah, that's just a stock photo, but that's the style we're going for. It'd be under 5,000 square feet, because if we go over that, it triggers sprinklers for the state, and it'd be under occupancy of 100, same thing, just because of sprinklers. Speaking to the architect, he said it'd be very expensive to put in sprinklers, so we want to stay under those requirements.
So it'd be very traditional looking, farm style restaurant,
Yeah.
established type deal.
Correct. So our tasting room right now, we do a lot of farm to table stuff currently on the menu. We do farm to table special events. We want, because of our current setup, we can't store a lot of grain, but we want to start using local grain. So our own standalone facility or building would allow us to have storage for local corn, local wheat, stuff like that, so that we could use it into the distillation process.
You'd be more of a setup like a Salem Cross Inn,
Yes.
like something that fits within the community and not like something that's an eyesore.
No,
for
we want to be
people.
very
Yeah.
welcoming. When we had small kids, we bring them wherever we went. So my wife and I are still very family focused. We want people to bring their kids, nice space outside, so the kids can run around, the parents can relax, have food. We want to have ice cream, things like that. So it'd be like a family venue, but obviously with the alcohol part, that's the big thing with reaching out right now to try to get that. So if you guys have questions or concerns, we can address them. before.
I'm just trying to get a big feel for the whole thing, so everybody sees the big picture
Yeah.
of what it is, because we see a handout that you give us, and the picture looks nice and everything.
Yeah.
But you're also on TV, so a lot of residents are watching, and we need to build what that
Oh.
looks like for them also.
Okay, so I
they
get where you're
understand.
trying to. So yeah, so we tear down the building, clear out part of the overgrown part, put up the new building, have manicured lawns, some parking. We're thinking it'd be an entrance only off Southbridge Road, and the exit would be on Forest. But we'd have to talk to planning and DPW and police for traffic to see if they're okay with that, or whatever is required. There's this big pine trees still there, so we'd want to keep those. So that narrows the driveway, but we'd like to have some accent lighting on it, so it's very inviting even when it's dark. No neon, very traditional.
Needs to be set away from the road.
Yes,
A
yep.
distance
So-
from the road.
Yeah, it's not gonna be right on the road. No neon. Yeah, not as big as Stone Cow because that is huge, but something like that. So there's a small ice cream place. There's the barn where they have the beers and stuff, and some food. Place where picnic tables, people can hang out, come really enjoy the day if it's really nice out. Indoor space if it's kind of rainy, but they still want to go out, go for a little drive or a trip or anything like that. Hopefully, I'm doing a kind of a good job of kind of painting what we're looking to bring.
Hours of operation, when would you like to be open?
Same hours we are now. So
What's
Thursday, Friday, 5 to 9. Saturday, we're open from 12 to 9. We are open on Sundays in the fall, but not in the summer. But that would probably change because we have our own location. But where we are now, so it'd be like,
So you only open 4 days a week?
yeah, there's not enough business.
And the
then
latest is 9?
yeah, oh yeah, latest is 9.
Okay.
I like to go to bed by 10, so that means I'd like to be home by 10. So yeah, we're not going to be open late. 9 o'clock. If we had a special event and they were requesting, 10 would be the max. Because then there's also the noise ordinances, I'm sure, in town that we would have to be cognizant of and make sure.
You
we
do have
follow.
neighbors, so.
Yeah, exactly right. So they don't want to be bothered. We don't want to have like big concerts outside. If we have music, it'd be kind of the same thing we have now, where it's just one person playing music, so that way the people around him can hear it. But other than that, no bands. That's not our thing. Nice, quiet, inviting, family spot.
And it's farm to table type restaurant?
Yes, farm to table food. Right now, Adam is our chef, Adam Pop. He loves to go to the local farms. Like our salads are farm to table. All the breads are made in house. We have a sit down meal that is farm to table. We like to bring that there also we do special events like we just had Mother's Day event, and that was all farm to table. So locally raised pigs for the bacon. The eggs came from a local farm. All the doughs for like the French toast, we all made in house, stuff like that. And same thing with the distillation process. We want to bring in local grain, so that way we can start being an actual grain. They call it a estate spirit. So that way the corn's ours, the wheat is ours, and we can make a grain to glass.
I'm good, thank you.
All right. You have questions?
Just a comment. I feel flattered that you guys are looking into the wiring for this. As my background as a urban designer, I think this is a great opportunity for the town to grow and get some attention and be show up on the map for something. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Do you have if everything goes okay, do you have a schedule or something planned?
Currently, no. I'm talking to the bank on Wednesday. Like I said, we want to make sure that the town is kind of okay with us before we invest a lot of money and time into it. We want to put an offer in within the next few months, so that way, because we have other things going on right now. But yeah, so sooner than later with the offer, and then we're gonna have the architect get involved, submit the drawings for all like the signage and what the whole property is gonna look like.
That's it, sir.
All right. So what about a buffer with the neighbors? We do a lot of vegetative buffers, like we have solar sites, we have gravel pits. So we like to keep the neighbors, you know, kind of isolated from the business activity. So on that piece of land, are you able to maintain some buffer, and a wide enough buffer, you know, that they won't see anything?
By looking at it, yes. So
Okay.
the house, where the house is now, is where we would put the new building.
Okay.
It's in the middle of the lot and it's 29 acres. So there's plenty of room on the sides, especially where the neighbors are gonna be,
Okay,
without really looking at it.
yeah,
But it's something we don't want to be a nuisance either. Like, obviously, we all have to live together. We like them to be some of our best customers, the neighbors.
yeah.
So,
Can you bring it up, Derek? You want to bring up a map?
I need my mouse.
I thought we were gonna get him a mouse.
If you want a wired one, I can get one right now.
He does want a wired one, yeah.
I do want to.
Yeah, actually wants a
Oh.
wired one.
I think, is the box still underneath that desk?
Oh, it's gotta be.
Let me share the screen now. Thank you.
How about this? Why are you moving from Sturbridge? Why are you looking?
oh,
at
we are
Warren?
leasing a small space inside the old mill yard.
Yeah.
And we want to have our own property and also bigger. We're running out of room. We're bursting at the seams for storage and everything we want to do. So that's why we're looking for.
Okay,
And
So I guess that's the house right there.
yes, and it includes that parcel, I think that one also.
do you have, are there wetlands on the property?
By looking at that, doesn't look like it.
Okay,
They could be. Yeah. So anyways, we'll have to get.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to submit everything through all the correct
Yeah.
boards, and so we're gonna.
conservation is the one who can determine that and where they are.
Yeah. Because it looks like there's something over there, but it could be.
Yeah.
So we have to go through all the proper boards, you know, and so they're gonna give us the buffers and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
So we want to keep most of the building right where the current house is.
Okay,
The rest of it would just be eventually down the road turn into maybe pasture for some livestock if that's of it, possible, or for to grow our own grain on site, which would be ideal for us. But yeah, so most of the building is going to be in the current spot. It may overlap a little bit just because the way the line is drawn there, but it won't. We're not going to encroach on the neighbors.
okay. Yeah, Derek, can you zoom out a little bit, just to see where the neighbors are? Okay, so there's one big neighbor right there. Okay,
And that's part of it, and then that one.
yeah, okay. All right,
there's
anything else? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, there's a pretty good distance between what you're gonna do and any neighbor.
Yeah, and it's not going to be like an industrial complex. There's not going to. It's going to be very low key, one story, all on one floor, basically. Some nice accents on it. We want it to be very inviting for people. We don't want an eyesore either, because people won't want to come anyways. So.
Yeah,
The one on the south 79 Forest is about 700 feet away.
Yeah, so like the big part of it is going to be in the current, where 1212 is, and then.
from this guy. 580.
All right, any other
That's
questions?
almost 2 football fields.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, anything else? We'll go
We
to-
just want to, so are you guys open to the possibility? That's why the big thing is, that's why I'm here. Just to see if, because if it's a flat out no, which I understand, then we obviously have to move on, but if you guys are open, we proceed.
Yeah, yeah.
With
let's-
the information I've given you, obviously, because I could be saying anything, and then when we come to present, it could be totally different.
Yeah, let's take some input and see what happens, and then, yeah,
Okay.
all right?
Right, so it's not a no.
So I assume most everybody is here for this. Okay, so,
Oh, really? Oh, wow. I wasn't aware of that. All right,
So-
so if anybody's got questions, we'd love to answer.
all right, if you
that's
have a
possible.
comment, go to the podium and state your name, and where you live. Well, line up, I don't know.
Address the chair.
And, yeah, whoever wants to go first. And there's no back and forth with Keith. Talk to me.
Well, we'll see if my questions get asked. If they don't, I'll get up.
So my name is Victoria Otano. I'm the resident at 258 Forest Ave. I just recently became aware of the potential for Deep Roots Distillery in is their interest in 1212 Southbridge Road. So after talking to obviously several neighbors that are also here, we have some general overarching concerns with traffic, the integrity of the road. There's a lot of family with young children on the road, including myself. I have a 4 and a 6-year-old, so that poses a large concern with potential people driving under the influence down a very quiet side road. I think he addressed kind of our concern about the noise and what that would look like with events and bands playing, but that's still a concern. The environmental impact from living on the road, I do know that there are wetlands on the property that extend to Forest Ave, so that's a large concern with putting in an access point there or an exit point there. And the concern of how is this going to affect property values, again, on a quiet rural side road. Luckily, a lot of the people we were able to discuss this with on Tuesday, when we became aware of this, are here tonight. So we just, in general, have concerns that we would like addressed further. And myself and my husband are definitely opposed to the idea of having an access point onto Forest Ave for these reasons and the reasons I've presented to you typed up.
Okay. All right, so Derek, can you zoom out a little bit? And go to the property? So there's Forest, right? So I guess my thought is, can we make it work?
My personal belief,
Well, hold on. Are there ways to make it work? Okay, so I'll just throw something out. If they didn't use Forest Ave, or it was a left turn only kind of situation, would that be better?
potentially, I think,
Oh, nope. I'm talking to her.
I believe that the traffic will still be an issue on Southbridge Road, although it sounds like the scale is not what Treehouse is. Route 20 can't
Okay.
handle
Yeah.
Treehouse.
No,
I
no.
believe Southbridge Road would not be able to handle the traffic that this could bring in on, especially on those special events. Even when Palmer Racetrack has events, we notice a huge increase in the traffic on Southbridge Road. And my concern would be, no matter what, people are gonna end up coming down Hawks and coming down Forest Ave, as a way to skirt traffic.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
So I think for large events, would you be open to having a police detail to help with traffic?
Yeah, yes, obviously, in what's a large event? 'Cause that's
So when you have like schedule events,
So that's a large event.
so if you had like schedule events, like
Yeah, can I come back?
a singer or something there,
Yeah, so one of the things we were thinking of is doing like, first weekend in April would be Maple Fest. So because March is Maple Month, we'd invite all the local sugar shacks in the area to come on out and have a Maple Fest. So that way the public can come and buy some of the stuff that they have in excess of. So yeah, so that would be large, I suppose. But yeah, we definitely, if the town requires us to have a police detail, we'd have a police detail. Same with, we're not married or anything to the plan of using Forest Ave. Just seemed like without obviously talking to anybody, like a decent idea to have it on, but if it has to be Southbridge Road, that's fine. We're not married to anything.
Okay.
Can I have one of those copies?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just so I can have you.
chief, if they would ask for a police detail, could you support that?
I think so, I don't know, it depends what this event is and how long it
Well,
is. and-
If they post it out long enough and give you guys plenty of notice, could you?
Yeah, it'd be like on a Saturday, and we close at 9. And then if it's outside, we're not gonna have outdoor lighting. So once it starts getting dark, that's it.
Yeah.
No people.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, may I?
Mhm.
Just want to remind you that the client said that they are going to keep the building small, a small footprint because of the sprinkles. That keeps the use for a small amount of people in there. So we're talking about 80, I think it was the number he used.
Yeah, under
Less than
one,
100.
under 100.
Under 100.
For indoor,
To be
yeah.
in the building.
Yeah, so if you,
You could have a tent or something then.
yes, indeed, but, just want to say that for now.
Yeah, okay, all right. But, nope. If you want to ask something, get up, because you got to go to the podium. All right, who's next? Well, do you have any other, I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
No, I think that, I think that summarizes my points. Again, all of them are summarized on this sheet.
Okay.
I think there, would be some potential solutions to some of these items, but others I don't believe so.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you.
I'll just say, I mean, one thing as a select board is we try to bring in business and bring down taxes.
I'm
And
all
it's-
for
right, so
business.
that's-
I
How-
just believe that the location is not an
Okay.
appropriate location.
All right, that's fair.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Did you have a?
I was going to say something similar. The property values could go up, and the taxes could go down with business.
Yeah. Okay.
How
sir.
you doing? Tim Russell, 51 Forest Ave. I am right here, and when the leaves are off the trees, I can see that house.
Okay,
So first, it is rural zoned, right?
it is, yep.
So the Bureau of Labor classifies distilleries as moderate or hazardous industrial occupancy, and they're part of the beverage manufacturing industry. I support small business.
No,
I've been to Deep Roots. I'm a whiskey connoisseur. But the distilling process is very hazardous. Oregon's OSHA says the primary hazards in craft distilling are fire and explosion. I mean, you're dealing with ethanol alcohol. So besides the fact that it's an industrial process being put into a rural area, we have the traffic issues, noise issues, obviously over-serving guests. I mean, you have 2 whiskey drinks and you're over the limit. Property values impact. So a lot of the property values around the distilleries in Kentucky and Tennessee actually drop because of issues around those distilleries. The bigger distilleries actually off-gas ethanol, and it causes a black mold to grow on trees, buildings, houses, people's cars. Now, this might be a much smaller facility, so it may not off-gas as much, but if any of you haven't washed your car in a year and you look around your gas tank, you have black mold that starts to grow, that's from the 15% ethanol in the gas. So besides that, there are wetlands on the property. I'm not sure how big of a distilling process it's going to be, but the discharge of the wastewater from the distilling process is hazardous. I'm not sure how you deal with that now, but that's one of the things I've read about the distilling process. It's hazardous to dump that. So I'm not sure. I know I'm on septic. I don't think there's sewer on Southbridge Road, is there?
No.
Okay. I would assume there's a large amount of water needed for that. I know my well doesn't produce tons of water, so you might have an issue getting enough water for the distilling process over there. Fire hazard is a legitimate concern, not only for the distilling process, but the storage. If you're storing, I'm not sure if you're gonna do bourbon, age it 4 or 5 years, lightning strike, and you have thousands of gallons of bourbon, 40% alcohol going up in flames. I'm not sure if the fire department would have any comments on that, but because of that, and you said something about you want to keep the building small and no sprinklers, that's kind of a red flag for me. I think sprinklers is something you would definitely want to think of in a business that's playing with ethanol. There's off-gassing from it with the aging process. There's a smell to distilling. I'm not sure how big you plan on getting, but I've been to plenty of breweries. You go in the back room, and it stinks, and you can smell that outside. And I'm 500, 600 feet away, so I'll definitely smell it. So those are my initial comments.
Okay.
When looking at the zoning, it says that it would have to be by special permit in the rural area, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but retail stores is a no. If we're gonna be selling it there for people to take with them, I would think that's retail process. And then any consumer or commercial establishments dealing directly with the general public is also no in rural areas, so. I know this isn't an established farm, so I know a lot of places get by that by having an established farm, and then they're selling farm products. We're starting something new here, so that's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
So,
Chair, Mr. Chair, can I just? Go ahead. So, just to clarify, ethanol fire is classified as a Class B fire, and it is not recommended to use water because it will actually spread an ethanol fire, so you can't use sprinklers.
Okay.
You would have to use an alternate means, dry chemical or something, to place on an ethanol fire
Okay.
to extinguish it or eliminate the oxygen in the air to put it out.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because there was a big fire down in Tennessee from a distillery, and the lake caught on fire because all
You
the
Google it, it comes right out.
barrels ended up in the lake. Anything else?
It was just clarifying on that.
Okay.
Just
No, I
the
appreciate it.
Sprinklers, because we don't want to use sprinklers.
No,
on it.
no, I should know that too. I teach fire safety for boats.
Are there questions?
Oh,
Like,
No, those are my concerns.
okay, well, it's Tim, right?
Yes.
Tim brought up some questions. Can you address those?
It sounded more like there were concerns and no questions, though. So
Well,
if you have questions,
Well, the concerns, I mean, the concerns
Oh,
are
okay, yeah,
fire, how, is this like a huge,
no, so you said you've been to our facility?
Yes.
We're gonna stay the same batch size, it's about 250 gallons. You didn't smell anything when you came in, right?
No, but you start to get popular and you want to expand. I mean,
We-
what
all right, hold on,
guidelines can you put on that then?
address me.
Okay,
Before
so
we
we
keep
would
it-
be, so right now, our batch sizes are 250 gallons. For us, that is perfect. We don't want to get too big because then it's not fun anymore. We'd be okay with even setting a limit of how big we can get at that location, because then if we do have to be like treehouse size, obviously we need to move. The one, he said he's been to our facility, you don't smell anything, we produce everything in the room right next door. It doesn't smell. As far as water, we don't use, because we're only 250 gallons, so we're 180 gallons usually of water we use. We probably have to dig a few more, or at least one more well. I get that as a concern, but that is something we'd have to. We also, one thing I would like to do is start catching some of the wastewater that would come off the roof when it rains and using that, because if all we did was filter it, we could store it in a giant tank, filter it, and then use that in the mashing in process. So that way we'd be more, zero green.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep,
I have a comment for Tim. Tim, if they come for a special permit, because all the things that cannot do at a small scale, and let's say if that thing, it's a success, to make it bigger, they will have to do the whole process. So you'll be here and you'll have a true statement, why not, let them be bigger.
And also, it's the cost of it. So the building, we're hoping, we're under like 700,000 total. We don't have enough money for new, bigger equipment, so we're gonna be using what we have currently. So like I said, 250 gallon batches. Our still is only 150 gallons. The stripping still and the spirit still is only 50 gallons. Right now, we're only producing under 100. Well, we're probably, this year I'm hoping we break 100 gallons for aged spirits, so like bourbon and whiskeys. I wish we could do 1,000 gallons, that's like the comment, but we're not at that scale.
So you're not on the level of Jack Daniels?
No, no. So we make a lot of liqueurs, and people like those. Yeah, exactly. So hopefully I addressed some of the concerns.
Go ahead.
For you, I'm assuming because you have the licenses and everything, you have to follow certain protocols and, inspections every year. You're doing it right and safe.
Yes, so the ABCC comes in before we open, and then as soon as we open, they can come spot check anytime they want. And same with the TTB, which is the federal government. They can come in whenever they want to make sure we store everything properly, that everything is accounted for. They want to make sure they get their tax money.
And so you're aware the town does do spot checks also?
Yes.
So be aware, because other
For
local
certain
businesses
lines.
have been caught
Yeah,
not doing what they should have been done and held accountable for that. So you have the federal government, the state, and the town monitoring everything you do.
Yes. Oh, and then the wastewater. So we collect it's called the heads and tails, and we use that for our vodka because it's a neutral grain. We turn it into neutral grain spirit. The waste right now, Sturbridge lets us put it into the drain because it's basically water with a higher pH. So if we treat it with a buffer, we could render the pH neutral, and then it's basically just water. I know Oklahoma, what they do, they have a dry system, and that's how they collect all their waste, and then they have it pumped out whenever it's full. And if that's what was required, then something we have to think about to see if it's worth the cost, to move forward with that location, if that's what's required. But it is an option.
how much water do you think you use,
It's, right now, because we use, when I mash in, so one day I could use 180 gallons of water. But then I want to do it again for like a week or two. Then I'll use another 180. So that's why if we could catch the wastewater coming off the roof and store it, that would alleviate a lot off the wells.
okay, all right.
Is it on septic or is there sewer there?
Oh, no, it's septic and well.
Okay, so it's never even gonna go into the sewer.
No.
Just one last comment, and I'll sit down. There's 4 districts, actually there's 6 districts in Warren, as you know, but out of the 4 main ones, special permit in RV and C, but in the rural area, it's a no for anything that's manufacturing or industrial. And producing alcohol is an industry, it's manufacturing. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just address, so, in the usage chart, drinking establishments that do not provide seated food services prepared on site under a retail food permit issued by the town are not allowed, but he is gonna serve food. And restaurants are allowed in rural with a special permit.
Oh,
So it's a-
yeah, I
it's
didn't say
kind
anything
of a
about the
gray-
restaurant.
Yeah.
I said something about the manufacturing of the alcohol on site. That's an industry. The restaurants, I can't argue with that. But manufacturing the alcohol, it's an industry. Bottling, canning, whatever, however it happens, it's an industry.
Okay. All right, so who's next?
Me, Rob Gordon. I'm next to Tim, 85 Forest Ave. So I'm the next closest. And I did prepare a few statements as well, so bear with me. How many of you have actually been to the corner of Forest Ave and Southbridge Road? Any of you? You know, it's pretty darn rural. More frogs than there are people. It's a rural community. It's got forests. We have dairies, apple orchards. You're well familiar with that. It's quiet, peaceful. It's safe and family friendly. We're 6 miles drive from Route 9, 6 miles drive from Route 20. two areas that are obviously more traffic-oriented and also more people-oriented. A typical destination point for tourists, but much to some dismay, our town is not a destination for tourists except during apple season. But that's not a bad thing for those of us who live there. A distillery does not fit into that community, or the proposed site at this intersection at Forest Ave and Southbridge. I don't even understand how a facility, a distillery, can suggest family-friendly events would be on tap when the very purpose of a distillery is to sell alcohol to adults. Warren obviously is a small town with limited police and fire departments, and honestly, they're great people. And most people draw water from wells and use septic systems because we don't have the luxury of being in town without access. So I'm concerned about the impact on well water availability, police capacity to respond to trouble from drunk patrons at the expense of the rest of the community, road safety and excess water contamination caused by added significant sewage to our ground from people who are using the rest facilities on site. The proposal to have an exit to the site on Forest Ave, which is just a few hundred feet from Tim's house and my house, go through a recognizable wetland. This is a street where only locals drive, where it's safe to leave tools outside, where we love to see the wetland plants flourish, the witch hazel bloom. By the way, I'm an arborist and a forester, so that's why I can talk about plants and such. Woodpeckers making homes in the trees. We have bear, deer, bobcat, fisher cats, coyotes, and turkeys roaming freely through the neighborhood. We're greatly concerned for the traffic it's going to cause and the inevitable noise pollution we would endure, and also the impact on both our native environment and also on our happiness. We're concerned, as Tim mentioned, about the value of our properties. We think that's a pretty important one as we get closer, myself and my wife, to retirement. Today, we're a very family-friendly location. Peace is promised and delivered, and seniors can retire, importantly, without anxiety. And anxiety is a big issue for seniors, as you guys know. That would no longer be true if such a business were approved in this particular spot. We've seen a notable increase in taxes and in assessments in the last year, and I don't argue that point, whether it was needed or not. But we have few amenities to share and to see for that. We have, our police and our fire. We have our own septic. I spent $5,000 to have a water treatment put into my house because the water is orange, full of iron oxide and orange. And $5,000 was a lot to spend for us. Why would we assume that any taxes generated from such a facility would further improve the lives of the citizens who already live here? We are vehemently against this being placed where the suggestion is. And honestly, without melodrama, I would give serious consideration to relocating out of Warren if this project is to move forward in this particular spot. That's all I've got for you. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions?
No, thank you very much.
No questions?
Okay, thank you.
Keith, do you want to respond to any of that? You don't have to.
No,
Just
they're
tell me
valid
what you-
concerns. I was thinking we're more a restaurant that serves alcohol than just a distillery. We happen to make the alcohol we sell on site, but like I said, it's very small batches. Everything we make fits in a very small closet right now, and the production rate would stay the same. It's just, yeah, so.
Okay, thank you. All right, you're next.
Hi, I'm Chris Richardson. I live at 96 Forest Ave, so I'm the largest abutter. So this is my property here, and I'm also gonna speak for 70 here. I didn't talk to him, but one of the big concerns, again, is water usage. I've been to Deep Roots, so I have nothing against you personally. I enjoy your products. My concern, again, because we're all on well systems, is the water usage. So we're not just talking about the distilling process and the waste and everything else. We're also talking about restaurants, cleaning, etc., right? Well, both 96 and 70, we have 12 and 13-foot shallow wells. So any runoff or any problems from their usage of that water is gonna greatly affect us. If they use a couple hundred gallons in a drought, we might not have water. That is a serious concern for both of our properties. And nothing personal, noise, once you're there, are you thinking about a pavilion or anything outside? Stage or,
Go.
Do you
Yeah,
want me
ask-
to
oh,
address it
sorry,
afterwards?
sorry.
So yes, I'll just-
I'm not used to the official, but.
Go ahead and go through your thing.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I'll-
Okay, so the water usage is a big one, especially if you're adding in the farm to table, you're gonna be growing your own products and potentially using pesticides and whatnot. Almost all of this plot is wetland. You can see skunk cabbage going all the way out, and there's a perennial stream that runs through and feeds all of our wells there. So again, having a driveway crossing over that, you're gonna have salt and everything over the winter because you're gonna wanna prevent being sued, and that's all gonna run off into the wetlands and then into our wells. That's a serious concern for both of our properties, in addition to the noise. I don't think it's a good idea. I'm concerned about parking. I don't know what size parking lot he's looking at, but I used to work at Highlands. And I've also been to the old tree house when it was the small location in the small town, and the town kicked them out because the parking and the traffic wasn't appropriate for a small rural community. The parking for Highlands, the police would have to come all the time because the small lot was full when they did have big events, even if it is like a harvest festival or something else. I've worked at Cook's. So parking could potentially go onto our street. If they are now exiting out onto Forest Avenue, we all have to worry about trying to get in and out of our properties. The kids are out playing and stuff. We have a loop around street. I can tell you, people weren't overserved, but you know that people were drinking too much on occasion. And what did they do? They would use the side streets and go through Glendale and cut through to avoid going out on the main road so that the police wouldn't be waiting there for them to pick them up. So what they would be doing is going around Forest, coming out over here, and now they're going past all of our houses. They're not just taking a little left out of there when they exit. I don't think it's appropriate for our area at all. And again, noise, once you're in there, you might wanna have like music on a weekend. And once they're in, we can't do anything about that. And I don't wanna hear music on the weekend. If I wanted that, I would have lived somewhere else. So those are my concerns. Thank you and sorry.
But I'll just throw this in, we have a very good conservation commission, and there's no way stuff is gonna go in any streams or wetlands, I'll tell you that.
No, yeah, exactly.
Also, Mr. Chairman, the special permit, at the end, it has conditions. So anything that we condition the client to do, like the noise, like, the parking, like that, it can't happen.
Well, if you're limiting the noise to the hours, that's still every weekend for us. It doesn't matter if it's in the day. If I'm out at the garden, I don't want to hear music and I don't want to hear tons of people. That's why I moved to where I did. Been here for 25 years, living in a quiet neighborhood. I don't want a big change. If I wanted a change, I would move.
Also,
Sorry.
reminds me the other project was going over here, more than 12 houses over there. Remember the cul-de-sac that was gonna go?
Yeah, somebody was gonna put a cul-de-sac in there.
And have 12
I don't know if
houses.
you know about that, but they're like 12 houses, so.
As far as the pavilion, more than likely, yes, we would build something like that. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
They look very nice and it attracts people, so yeah, we would like to have
But then
one.
you're adding capacity to the
Chair, can I-
100.
Oh, to the outside, yeah, it's under 100 inside.
Okay,
but-
go this way.
Oh, sorry. So it's, sorry, yeah, so the pavilion, yes, we will more than likely eventually put one in because they do look nice, people like hang out underneath them.
It's the summer, right?
Yeah, exactly, and like I say, it's under 100 inside, but the outside be for the nice season when people like to be outside, so we have extra capacity.
Mr. Chair, can I just say something real quick? So, I understand everybody wants to speak. We understand your passion, we understand this is where you live, and we value that. We want to protect that. But there are rules, okay? When we're dealing with the board, to keep the order of things, everybody must address the chair, okay? Even us, before we speak, we address the chair to make sure that we're recognized and it is our turn. It is his job to control the meeting. So when you're speaking, do not speak directly to them, you're speaking to the chair. Same thing for the residents, you're speaking to the chair and asking him a question, okay? That prevents the back and forth arguing, and we can get through this being friendly to each other, okay?
And
When it comes
everybody
to,
gets a chance to speak, there's no big interruption.
and when it comes to parking, obviously we wouldn't allow parking, but I get what they're saying. The people are gonna do what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a way to mitigate it, but we would be willing to do whatever. If it's
Yeah, I
a
mean-
tollway zone, and where the
Yeah,
cars
I mean,
get,
there would definitely be no parking signs on South First
Yeah.
Road. I mean, if this were to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely, yeah, and even on Forest.
Yes.
You would have to contain everything on your property.
yeah, and then obviously there's a lot of objections from the residents on Forest. So we need to leave Forest alone and just have everything on Southbridge Road. That's perfectly,
Okay,
that's not an issue at all.
all right. Okay, so we
Yep.
have another person. Hi.
All right, good evening. My name is Heather McCusick. I live at 222 Forest Avenue in Warren, and I also own the adjacent lot next to me as well. I'm a little bit further down the road, but I'm here tonight to strongly oppose the plan for Deep Roots Distillery to use Forest Avenue as an access or exit point. Forest Ave is a narrow residential road surrounded by wetlands, woods, and family homes. It is not designed to handle traffic, delivery trucks, or overflow from events. Increased traffic on this road presents a serious safety risk to residents, especially children, pedestrians, and would significantly disrupt the peaceful character and rural integrity of our neighborhood. I also want to raise a concern about the lack of communication from Deep Roots Distillery. According to the Ware River News article published on April 24th, the planning board advised the owners to approach the neighbors and inform them of their plans for the property. As a resident of Forest Ave, I can say no such outreach has occurred. I believe this failure to follow the planning board's recommendation is not only disappointing, but shows a lack of good faith and respect towards the residents most likely to be affected by their proposal. I understand and support the need for economic development in our town, but it should not come at the expense of public safety or the quality of life for residents. Forest Ave is simply not a suitable access route for this type of business, and I respectfully urge the rejection of any proposal that includes Forest Ave. Thank you.
Okay, so I think there's a pretty
don't
big
act-
consensus that we're
Yeah, I actually
not
don't
gonna
have any
use
questions,
Forest
so-
Ave, right? All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
We never asked the client to contact the
was in the
abutters.
Well, we might have to go, I don't know.
I did read that article also, and I don't remember you guys saying that, so I don't know
Because you were
where.
you were not even a project yet, so.
No, so I don't,
We explained to you the process. Once you apply for the permit, then the first meeting, we will notify, and it's the planning board who notifies all the abutters about it, like.
correct, yeah. And, so we did not approach the residents, just because we're still in the very early
Yeah, I was
stages
gonna
of
say, in all
doing-
fairness, they're so far at the beginning that they're still in the exploration. I mean, that, they haven't even applied for anything.
And-
Keith and his partners are really just saying, well, we're thinking about this, so,
So I'm not sure how you handle misquoted information, but you might want to contact the Ware River News because they published that the planning board told him to contact the residents. So you can understand why seeing that published and finding out through a newspaper would
Yeah.
be deeply disturbing to the residents and concerning.
okay.
And also, when it comes, just thinking about it, let's say we did have an event and we had a police detail, like setting up the part of the detail in front of Forest Ave. I know I can't address them, but then, so that way it's, local traffic only. So the residents are the only ones that were Warren residents, the only ones that can go through that road. And then
Yeah.
when trying to park or go through there, the police detail would turn them away and tell them, no, you gotta go in. No, there's no parking down here. You gotta go.
Yeah,
Find it.
okay.
Hopefully I addressed some of the.
Ma'am,
I just have one thing to say.
what's your name?
Lillian Gordon, I live at 85 Forest. We moved here 20 years ago, and we moved into just the new house with everything we had to fix. We have spent thousands upon thousands of dollars into making this our retirement home. We have put trees in, we have put so many things, it's like a wonderland up there. I do not expect to sit out there on my deck or in my front near my pond, listening to music, someone else's music, on the weekends, worrying about the cars, hearing the noise. We really wanted to stay here. We love being here, but I will not, like my husband said, it's a terrible blow to us to know that, you know, you have music just on the weekends. Well, that's when everybody's home, on the weekends. We work during the week. So, you know, we appreciate peace and quiet. And like they said, there's a lot of wetlands there. I have seen pileated woodpeckers there, fox, bear, everything crossing the road. I even had a porcupine I used to feed last year until somebody, of course, went down the road and killed it. But every day he'd come from across those wetlands and I'd feed him apples and bananas and stuff. So we have a lot of wildlife there. But I love where I live. I love coming to the tiny little post office, and I love the peace and quiet, and I'm going to fight this. I mean, this is unacceptable for and our wells. We all have wells, and most of them are shallow, and I don't want somebody else taking my water. And it's not just making the liquor, it's the people, the toilets, and it's everything that's going in there. And I can see a successful business only getting more and more disruptive in our lives. And right now, all of us that live there, we have a beautiful life, and we want to keep it that way. It's, you know, I don't care what kind of house you build, that'd be great and everything, but not a business, not hundreds of cars, and, you know, we just like our peace and quiet. That's all.
Thank you. All right.
Hi, Joshua Plant, 251 Hawks Road. Hawks Road hasn't even been mentioned tonight. They're connected. At the end, there's a super blind corner. It's actually almost 180-degree switchback. Couple things. One, you mentioned property values might go up, you know, with the added value of the brewery. You mentioned property values might go up. Someone mentioned property values might go down. Both sides, very well spoken, by the way.
Over here, sir.
He covered just about everything I wanted to say. Both sides of that coin are negative effects for property owners. Property values go down, it's bad for the property owner if they want to sell. Property values go up,
More taxes.
it's good for you, not you.
Well, the tax-
The other thing was, he mentioned keep the restaurant under 80 people, or 80 people, under 100 for the mass sprinkler regulation. I think no matter what size the building, because you also used family atmosphere in your statement, that if I was to put in a building, I would want to put the sprinklers in to make everybody even more safe if it was 60, 80, 100, 200 people. If my plan was to create a family-friendly, safe atmosphere for entertainment, food. The one thing that hasn't been mentioned is how big are the outside events gonna be? And no business starts out planning on staying the exact same size that they started. Everybody wants to succeed, everybody wants to grow. Everybody wants, it's America, everybody wants to make as much money as they possibly can. You know, when I was in construction, business started with a couple guys on my crew. Before you knew it, I had 2 crews. You know, if you can, you're gonna grow. You know, and the biggest concern for most of the people down there is the traffic. You know, a left turn only sign was mentioned on Forest Ave if they did, but even on Southbridge Road, people are gonna end up on Forest Ave. People are gonna end up on Hawks Road, no matter where the driveway for this place is. There's already an issue on Hawks Road, at the end of Hawks Road and Forest Ave. It goes, Forest Ave continues on, turns to dirt. There's people dumping mattresses up there, transmissions, love seats. I'm constantly chasing them, going down, making sure they're not dumping on my partner's property. My partner already pays taxes more than her mother's house on the lake in West Brookfield. Her taxes are already over that. I mean, it's a completely rural area. The pesticides have been going in the ground from the orchard forever. The shallow wells, not only did we have to put a new filtration system in last year, we also had to have our well hydrofracked because there was no water draining into it. I'm not sure he knows how much iron is in the water, how little water is up in that area. Because some days during the summer, you just go to turn the faucet on, there's nothing there. 4 hours later, you'll start to get a trickle. You know, it's going into a septic. Does it have a leach field? His waste? Is the septic gonna have a leach field? That's directly going into the ground. There's ways around it, tight tanks, stuff like that, but, he's already talking about the amount of money that they have and what they're gonna do at first, and they don't wanna do sprinklers because of the expense, keep it smaller, stuff like that. It's just the wrong place for a brewery. And I also agree with someone else who said breweries aren't family-oriented. You might throw a family-oriented event up there, but breweries are bringing in people over 21 years of age. We all know what happens. We all know the trouble alcohol brings right along with it. I'm living proof of that. I don't know how many tickets he's written for somebody not following a sign that says left turn only, and taking a right instead, or not stopping at a stop sign. People walk their dogs, there's kids playing, kids on bikes. I don't see too many kids on bikes out in the driveways, but, every once in a while, a kid's ends up scooting out in the driveway on his bike out into the road. I'm afraid people are gonna get down by the power lines where there's already a lot of trouble that the police can't police. We've called the town a week and a half ago, people dumping mattresses, and to help you out, nothing's ever made it in Warren. You might be giving yourself just enough rope. Wrights down to where Wrights is, that might be a better place for a brewery, restaurant, stuff like that. I know you can't afford to buy Wrights, but out in the woods like that, Oakhome turned a beautiful farm into some place that I don't even fish in front of that place anymore on Quabog because of the noise and the trouble and, try fishing right in front of it. The owner thinks he owns the lake. They turned a beautiful farm, they ruined it. That was a beautiful piece of property up there. It's still a beautiful piece of property, but it's not being used for its intent, I understand you want to grow. If you want to buy it, start a farm, you'll probably be greeted with open arms up here, so. And I got nothing against you. Never been to your brewery. Went to Oakhome once for a laser light show and a chicken barbecue. I know them, but I've never been to Treehouse, not once. I've sat in the traffic that it creates. Thought about axe throwing, but we can all do that in our backyards. We all laugh about it, After the argument at the kitchen table, we would go out, kick a stump over, and throw an axe at it. So, but that's
All right.
I just want to voice,
Yep.
It's mostly the traffic, the water. There are wetlands on that property, but I'm not going to get into that. I've been on it my whole life, but I know the EPA stays on top of stuff like that, conservation.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And I'm almost word for word what John, was it? Rob read off his paper.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I will say this, that the water in Warren has an iron and manganese problem. We had to build a treatment plant for people who are on town water to deal with that. And it's in everybody's wells, so I don't know if you've looked into that, but it is a pain,
Okay.
so.
See, to address the septic, we have to have the system designed by an engineer. And so we have to be upfront with him what we're gonna make, so he has to design a septic system and leaching field that can handle everything that we're gonna do.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions or comments at this point?
When can we expect some decision from the board?
this is just a discussion if we would be receptive to the idea. As the chair explained before, there is no specific plan of happening. It doesn't even own the property yet. This is just, if I could do this, would you be willing to let me try? That is what the purpose of this meeting is. He has not pulled any permits. He has not filled out any application.
We have not put an offering on the property. It's still, anyone can buy, it's still for sale.
So
So I
it's
would-
just an inquiry.
Yeah.
I would almost throw it back on you, Keith. I mean, based on the temperature in the room, what do you think? Have you looked at, I mean, we would welcome you in Warren, maybe somewhere else potentially, if the.
If there's other
outcry-
options, sure, we're not a no. No. All valid concerns. If I was a neighbor, I probably wouldn't like it either, to be
Yeah.
honest, right?
Yeah,
But I'm wondering if there's ways to put restrictions on like the noise, the size of events we can have. Just because then if they just become so big that it's not fun for us to put them on anyways, so maybe it is pump the brakes, have a cap, so,
Yeah.
things like
So-
that. So maybe we need to apply for a special permit every time we want to host an event, certain things like that.
okay.
So, Mr. Chair,
So,
can I-
well, let me just say, so the planning, this would really go to the planning board next to deal with this. And it's a special permit, which means we can put conditions on how they operate. And even before that, I'll say that it's site plan review, which means we look at the building, the septic, we can have it peer reviewed. So, Keith will come in with his engineers, but we can also hire an engineer to review the plans, to make sure the septic looks okay, to make sure the building looks okay, so stuff like, I'm just informing you of the process, just so you don't think it's like a steamroller kind of thing that might happen.
I'm just, again, concerned about our wells. With the two shallow wells right
So-
up there, how do you guarantee? So what
Okay.
happens to our wells if we get
That's a-
polluted or what else?
That would be part of the study, if I can speak, right?
Or maybe it's we truck in water and have holding tanks, so we're not,
Well, I mean, that, yeah,
no, it could- maybe,
Okay.
and like I said, then we have to see if it's worth it or not, right? Because that could be the restriction, that we don't use well water
so
for
again, the
production.
planning board can say, okay, this plan looks decent, what about your water? Go out and get a study done, on the aquifer, on whatever, to make sure that you're not gonna impact the residents. And then he may come back and say, well, we're gonna bring in water.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay, so there's a lot of back and forth and controls on things. Like I said, it's not just steamrolling over everything.
Yeah,
So-
and because when we bring the drawings, they have to be stamped by an engineer.
Yep.
They have to be able to fill whatever requirements are by the state already.
Yeah.
And then whatever you guys decide to put on also
Right.
would have to be added on.
So wetlands are gonna be conservation, DEP. They can't work with, there's a 100-foot buffer around streams and wetlands, so they can't be, well, you can, but it's a real pain in the rear end. But there's a lot of regulations around wetlands, so those would be protected, I can guarantee you that. Did you had a comment?
Yeah, unless Mr. Blease wanted to go first. Yeah, did you have something?
I have two comments.
Okay.
One comment is, even if the client pulls up a permit, goes through the whole process of the special permit and everything, there's no guarantee that he could get the project. So there's no way we can respond right now and say yes or no. There has to be a process, open public process, and everybody chimes in.
Yeah,
So there's a big process. It's not like we're gonna say yes right now and tomorrow he's gonna get the property.
yeah.
The other comment I wanted to say is, it's about the big events. We all been at Quabog, and on the sports, we go there, we cheer, we celebrate a lot of activities over there. I mean, we may watch from the front lines, from the sidewalk. That place has a capacity of 400 people. I drew a football field on the property. So it's a big property. I want just to scale down everything how it is, comparing apples to apples.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's a football field?
That's a football field, that little
That
rectangle. that's a
rectangle.
And then maybe it's a cap of how many events we can have. Maybe it's only 3 or 4 a year.
Yeah.
And there's an end time, so that way the neighbors aren't impacted as much as, or we make them feel better about being impacted.
Yeah. Okay,
So, yeah, so we're open to anything to try to make it work
all right.
if we do decide to move
Okay,
forward.
so, come back up. Let's just take like one or two more comments, and so, why don't you guys come up and then we'll
guess I'll
kind of
sit
wrap it
down.
up.
Respectfully, Derek, there's 8 football games a year, and they're a couple hours long. My house is within 2 football fields then of the football thing. And then when we did have football games, you could hear it 3 streets over when we played the music, so. It was only a couple hours, 8 days, 8 games a year, actually only 4 home games.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a couple of quick comments. The first is that it's impossible to control the noise level. If you've got 5 people walking by chatting on your street, you can hear them at our houses because we're up on the hill. So there's no way to avoid from an outside pavilion the noise coming to our houses. It's impossible. The second thing is, he's offering all kinds of restrictions. It sort of suggests that we're not the right place to be. If you're going to restrict this, that, and the other thing, it's really saying to him, go find somewhere else to move to where you've got a more open embrace. That's not on the corner of Southbridge and Warren. We are not the right place for a distillery. And that's all I'll say. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna conclude everything, I think we've, okay,
Sorry, I'll be quick.
all right, get it?
I'll be quick.
Yeah, state your name. This is it?
All right.
This is it.
All right. I wasn't gonna say anything, but I'm at 259 Forest Ave, so I'm a little further down the road.
What's your name?
Paula Chafee. But I feel like I've already gone through this once in my life here in Warren. I lived on Cronin Road, across from the Adleys, back in, 20 years ago, when they wanted to do the racetrack right across the street from my house. So sitting on my deck every weekend, sit on your deck on Saturday and have a grill or whatever, have your family over, and have to live with something like that. And it's gonna be every weekend. Picture some of your neighbor, just your neighbor, blaring a stereo out there in your yard. So I feel like I'm doing this again 20 years later.
Okay.
It's pretty much the same thing. Nobody's gonna come and buy any of our houses when they say, there's a distillery right down the road. That's not a plus, I don't think. So that's all I want
Okay,
to say.
all right, thanks. All right, so Keith,
Thank you very much for the comments. I know I'm
Yeah.
not, but valid concerns is definitely something we need to think about.
yeah,
We were hoping it'd be better, but at the same time, it is
Right.
what it is, right?
it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's nothing restricting you from pulling permits and going through the process, but just beware that this is the environment right now.
Okay.
Now, on the other hand,
Mr. Chair, I still.
He wanted to
yeah,
say
yeah, hold on. I would encourage you maybe to sit down with Jim. I mean, maybe we have a empty bank building. We have maybe other spots in town. I mean, again, we would like to have businesses in town. It would be great. But maybe there is a better spot that would be
Yeah.
more suitable.
Yeah, no, I will definitely reach out. Yeah, we're looking for something, at least 5 acres, because we want to be designated 61A a farm.
Okay.
Because we have farmer's brewer, farmer distiller, and farmer winery licenses. So we'd like
Okay.
to be able to grow stuff on our own property that we could use. But yeah, I will definitely, if anyone knows of anything,
Okay.
please feel free to reach out. We're open to
Can
anything.
I put you on the spot? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so if you guys know of anything available in the Warren or even surrounding towns,
Yeah.
more than happy to
Okay,
entertain the idea.
all right.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I hear what everybody's saying. I personally would love to see the business come into town. We need the business. We need the revenue, okay? I think you'd be an amazing business and an asset to our town. I hope you consider Warren. On the other note, I sympathize for the residents, okay? As you said yourself, you wouldn't be happy if you were moving in next to you either.
Probably not.
Okay? I sympathize because I live on the top of Coy Hill Road, and I have to listen to the racetrack from Palmer. And I hear the cars going, vroom, vroom, all day long, okay? And it drives me insane. And we could not say a word because it was in another town, okay? And Warren couldn't say anything, okay? And I did not buy my property to hear cars going around a track all day long on my weekends, okay? So I sympathize for the residents. I would not want that also. People buy property in the town, in these rural communities, in rural areas, to listen to birds, to listen to the wildlife. I have wildlife. I also have bears and plenty of porcupines, but I'm not fond of the porcupines as much as some others are. You know, I find them to be very annoying when I'm trying to drive down my road, and they just, with their little itty bitty legs, want to walk in front of me and don't want to get off the road. So, but I give them the chance to get off the road. I don't want to run them over either, because I respect the wildlife. But I respect everything what everybody's saying. I would love you to look for a different option, okay? I can't tell you not to apply for a permit or not to purchase a property that you are rightfully willing to purchase, okay? But I think from all the input on the residents, I think the area you're looking at might not be the best area for you.
It's a big hill to climb.
It is. And residents are very passionate, as you would be about your own property too, okay? I would love you to look at the mill complex. I know there's a building in there that probably would be perfect for you, which would be great. Because in the master plan, there's actually a design for a brewery in the master plan. And that could be a very good option and probably a lot more business opportunity and events surrounding that.
Yeah, you could expand.
Going
You
in.
wouldn't have
And I
any
know
problem
the
expanding.
owner is looking at leasing out space to people right now. So that might be an option for you, and it's a lot bigger space than what you're in now. But I do feel for the residents, and I do think their opinions go a long way within the community. They spent a lot of money for their properties, they worked hard for their areas, and they're gonna defend it with a passion, as I would for my property too. And I know Rich would do for his, and so would Mr. Belize. But we do want your business, but maybe not in a small area
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
like that.
All right, thank you. Any final?
I want to add to the mill. The mill, there's also its own forest area. Because you mentioned you have the interest of not only doing but cultivating your own thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm definitely looking into it.
all right.
Now, just like to thank the residents for coming out and voicing their opinion, because I'd rather know now than after we buy
yeah.
it and we start doing the process.
Yeah.
Because then
I'd
we're
also like-
committed.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for a good discussion, remaining calm, and being able to voice your opinions. I think it was awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Can I just ask everybody to please sign in?
Yeah, if you haven't signed in on the sheet over there.
It
please
makes
sign.
my job a lot easier.
All right.
All right, great.
All right.
Thank you very much for everybody's time. Thank you for coming out.
Thank
No,
you,
I know,
everyone.
and I get it. Like I said, I'd be the same way too if it was. Thank you. Now I'll give you a call. Thanks.
All right. Chief,
Gentlemen, if you're gonna have a conversation, just please take it outside the room for us, please.
Water is an issue, you might definitely want to look at that first before you buy the property.
Like I said, I'm glad you guys came out.
Late fell asleep. I'm up. Okay, for the
all right, you're good.
for the month of April, and
we had 1,333 calls logged, 1 felony investigated, 50 incident reports logged, 4 on-view arrests, 2 warrant arrests, 13 summons arrests for a total of 19, 1 protective custody, 2 juvenile arrests, 115 motor vehicle stops, 56 citations, and 5 motor vehicle accidents. On the first of the month, I attended my monthly Homeland Security meeting. Also, at the beginning of the month, Sergeant Williams attended an 8-day narcotics investigation course. On the second, I attended a department head meeting put on by Town Administrator Jim Farrar. Also attendance was our Maya representative, Deb Williams, who spoke about trainings, opportunities through Maya. On the third, I, along with the Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator, Fire Chief Lavoy, all attended a meeting in regards to the dispatch center. The meeting was a presentation about the center going to a district model. On the 9th, I attended the Mass Chiefs of Police annual trade show. The show was at a convention center in Marlborough, was packed with vendors of all types of police equipment and technologies. On the 11th, I took part in the interviews with Chief Carvier and Chief Ayotte to find a new police advocate for our domestic violence task force. We met with 3 candidates, and at the end of the interviews, we selected one to move forward. On the morning of the 13th, I took part in the reading day at the Warren Elementary School. Mr. Ferrer was there also, where I read to a kindergarten class. In the afternoon, I attended a distracted driving presentation that was put on at the Quabog High School. That was actually pretty cool. It was like a game show, and it was a good time. And in the evening, I attended the first of 3 presentations for the discussion on the construction of a new public safety building. On the 15th, we conducted the lockdown drills at both elementary schools. We also conducted a full Alice drill at the high school. All drills went very well. I would like to thank Warren Fire, West Brookfield Police and Fire, State Police C3, who all assisted us with the drills. On the 16th and the 17th, the department had the honor of hosting a police close quarters combat class. The class was run at the Wrights Mill Complex, and because we were hosting department, we were given 2 free seats for the class. That was set up by Officer Degree. He brought in the company to do the training, which was very nice. On the 18th, members of the Warren Police Department, Warren Fire, as well as West Brookfield Police and Fire, all attended the Public Safety Appreciation Lunch at the Quabog. I'd like to thank teacher Joe Salvador, who puts that on every year for us. He's a great guy. And also Superintendent Steve Duff. And finally, on the 30th, I attended a farewell to Dispatcher Phyllis Chartier for her retirement from the dispatch center. She did a total of 33 years, and I believe 17 at Rutland Regional. I wish her happy and peaceful retirement. And that is it for the month of April.
Okay, so tell us about the Wrights Mill. Where were you? How did you end up
So they
using
used
that? That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was a very nice. Officer Degree is big on tactics, and he wants to be a SWAT officer. So he was in contact with this group that does trainings like that, close quarters, house clearing, stuff like that they wanted to work on. They were looking for a place that would suit their needs. And actually, you know where the offices are?
Yeah, like the admin building.
They have a bunch of rooms, and
Yeah.
then they were able to use all that. They used some open spaces. It worked out well. So they actually want to come back again and do more trainings that the company wants to do, and probably use Wrights and our conference room for the class portion of it, and go to Wrights for the on-site stuff.
Wow. That's
So
awesome.
it worked out well.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, any use of those buildings.
Yeah,
is
and
awesome.
it's great when you bring in companies like, we had talked to them, or when we were going through the building stuff, about having the conference room where you could bring in companies like this and they give you free tuition for a certain amount of you guys. This one was 2 slots for us for free, so you can say that saved over $1,000 to have 2 people go to the class.
Wow, awesome.
Very nice.
Questions? What company was it?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to ask Officer Degree.
Good job, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
You got it. I'm going back to my seat.
Oh, yeah, that's right,
To
reclaiming.
the back of the room with you,
Right.
Chief.
Get back there. All right. Moving on, discussion with a possible vote to use up to $10,000 of Community Development Block Grant, CDBG miscellaneous funds, so that the town can retain engineering services to develop a cost estimate, bid-ready plans and specs for the town concrete stairs improvement project. So this is the stairs in front of the businesses downtown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As the board probably recalls, the board had made a request to Jeremy Olson to address some of the tread steps that were causing a tripping hazard in front of the businesses in the downtown area. These steps were originally installed in 2010, so they're relatively not that old for concrete steps that are down there in front of these businesses. Jeremy did go through and try to remove some of the treads and looked at it, and he feels as though that it needs further looking at by some type of architect or design professional that can really make a real valid assessment on the steps. There has been some preliminary discussion about, potentially, just, having this assessment done to all the way up to a complete redesign of those steps. And so I had a further discussion. This was made through the CDAC committee, and John O'Leary had sent me this email back on May the 6th with this request to get this on the agenda. And I've had a further discussion with him after the agenda has been posted on some of this language that potentially could be in a motion tonight. And so what he's really looking for after further discussion with him is up to $5,000, not 10, okay? And this would pay for an assessment to be done to develop a scope of work for potentially looking at these steps and having an architect or somebody to give an assessment, an engineer an assessment as to how to treat and rectify the problem with these steps down there. So, after discussing it with him, he doesn't feel as though that, $10,000, we would anywhere be near that, because that we're not even looking at bid-ready plans. He initially was calling for bid-ready plans, but after further discussion with him, he wants to just be able to get an assessment done, whether it be through Weston and Sampson or some other vendor, probably less than $5,000. We have a little bit over, right now, the last time I checked, a little over $30,000 in miscellaneous funds. So they're looking to use some of those funds to pay for an assessment, up to $5,000 for addressing this issue.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, this sounds pretty decent. We don't want to end up fixing it and having it deteriorate in 5 years from now because we didn't do the right thing, right? So it'd be good to have some sort of plan and the right approach, so. Any questions?
I'm just, the whole issue of fixing these steps and doing that area over, I don't even know how we got into the business of doing that for a private business anyways, because that is a private property.
No, it's not. That's ours.
The sidewalk's ours.
No, I think
We don't own those buildings.
no, but we own.
We own the stairs because we built the stairs.
Yeah.
For the businesses.
Well, yeah, because we redid the downtown.
Right,
Well, actually, we didn't. Mass DOT did.
right. But the town took on itself of putting these steps in for the businesses, to help the businesses. And now we own this problem. I think it was a bad idea when it was chosen to do, right off the bat, because it's the business's responsibility to, do their own steps. Now we own it, so we have to fix it, because we put it in and it's broken, because we didn't wasn't done right the first time.
Yeah, not sure.
So I'm good with the $5,000 for the assessment, but I'm just not happy about this whole project. Because I think it's a slippery slope when we start doing this stuff. And literally we put in the front section of a business to help them. I'm good with utilities, roads, sidewalks, light posts for the business. But when we start doing the front facade and the steps of a business, I think we're using the money poorly at that point. But
Yeah.
we've already done it and we own it
Yeah,
now.
it is what it is, yeah. Derek?
Okay, so I agree with everything that's been said, just the execution part. Architects have nothing to do with that, or engineers. You have to be a concrete expert. So a company that they do that all the time, they should have their own engineers look at it and say, this is what you need to rebuild those.
So,
Yeah, that's what I would say, some sort of
somebody is going to develop, whether it be an engineering firm, is going to develop a scope which would probably lead to some type of concrete expert, potentially applying for the bid for this job. But in the beginning part of it, John and CDAC have reached out to, had some initial discussions with Weston and Sampson to get some type of scope developed. And these funds, these few $1,000s, will develop this scope to try to get, this project scoped out.
Are they gonna give us a price to fix it?
Yes, they will give us an estimate as well.
So why don't we just put it out for bid to fix the steps? To a concrete company or somebody that specializes in that. Why are we hiring somebody to discuss that they need to be fixed and what needs to be done, that we need to hire a concrete specialist to fix them?
Because number one, I don't think that there's anybody qualified here to put out those type of specifications of what you're looking to do. And so I think we're gonna need some type of qualified, whether it be an engineering firm, a specialist that can write this assessment, the scope of work, and then come up with a price estimate for a repair or potentially a complete remodel.
Rebuild. Because the model, we already have the plans, it's already designed there. If it's in bad shape, they will rebuild it. If it's in
Yeah,
half
we're not
shape,
gonna
they will
like tear the
fix
whole
it.
thing out and redo it, right?
Well, I mean, that was one of the discussions as to, what would the engineering firm or the person who's gonna develop this scope of work or these specs, what would they recommend? And that's,
Yeah, okay.
they're gonna have to make a determination of that. Now, my concern, and I have also told this to John, was that these steps are not that old.
No.
They were only done in 2010.
Yeah.
And so, townspeople, as rightfully so, will have some concerns about, well, why are you ripping all this out? I mean, we just put this in,
Yeah.
15 years ago.
Yeah,
So, and I cautioned, John, I said, John, if we could, just look at some type of rehab or fix to this problem, I think that would be a little bit more, palatable for a lot of
Yeah, I
people.
agree.
So why don't we just put it back the way it was the first time before we tore them all out and leave it on the property owner? Why are we taking on this problem?
Yeah, but that means we'd have to rip all that out and then rebuild
Well, if we're
it.
gonna rip it out to rebuild it,
Well, but no, I
then
think,
now we're still responsible for it.
no, I don't think we're trying to avoid ripping it out and
Well, yeah.
rebuilding it. We're gonna try and fix it.
Well, that's the plan, but
Yeah.
if they say, well, they were designed wrong, it was poor design, bad concrete, the type of concrete that was utilized was not sufficient for this type of project, are we gonna pay to rip them all out and then pay to put them back in, for us to have to keep on with this problem to maintain it for private businesses.
So that will be a determination, because that would be a CDBG eligible project. And then that would have to be determined whether or not the board wants to pursue, using CDBG funds for, if they come back and say that there has to be a complete, gut of what is there.
But would the town have to pay some money towards that out of our own taxes?
Not if it's CDBG.
No, it'd be
So it'd be
CDBG.
100% covered.
Yeah.
So I would say, if they're gonna recommend ripping it out and redoing it, we need to know why.
Well, that's what the
Right.
assessment would come
'Cause
back,
we can always say no. I mean,
Right.
it might be easier to patch it every
Right,
5 years
right.
than rip it out.
This is just going to fund an assessment so
Yeah.
that it
We
will
understand
get
the
us by qualified individuals who will make this determination and then say, this is the guidance that we can provide. And then we can have a further discussion once the assessment is back.
Yeah, yeah. And this is no cost to the taxpayer, because this is extra money we get off the program, so.
So this is recaptured funds, using some recaptured funds that have now been turned into miscellaneous funds.
Right.
We already own them, we gotta fix them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what should our motion be? We're
So
already lowering
make
it
a
to-
motion to use up to $5,000 of community block grant miscellaneous funds to retain engineering services to develop an estimate and an assessment and specs for the downtown concrete steps improvement project.
I hate to be, but what if we, I'm looking at, concrete stair repairs near me. And a lot of these companies, they say, they're big companies that they repair concrete stairs. And they say, free estimate. And after the estimate, they say how much it costs in repairs.
So if that's the route that you want to go, we can go that route, but then the taxpayers are going to be paying for that. It's not going to be a CDBG funded project, because CDBG requires you to have these assessments and to have these designs done by an architect in order to be a qualified CDBG project.
And it's gonna have to be 3 quotes, we're gonna have to go through procurement.
Correct.
What if we found out that these guys fall into that category? Because they are engineers.
Right, but Jim's saying then it's not a CDBG project anymore, now we gotta, so say it's 20 grand.
Well, but they
or whatever, we gotta-
specify to have an assessment by a professional engineer. So we can ask for an assessment.
Right, but we have to pay for it then? Out of our own tax money?
No,
I guess I'm missing,
so we're gonna hire somebody to tell us that we have to repair the stairs. That's what the CBG, they want.
well, we know we have to repair it, it's gonna be what we have to do to repair it.
Well, same, these guys will tell us what they need, what we need to repair. They're professional engineers.
Okay,
And then we use
Yeah,
that
but
money
the
to fix
difference is
it.
We'd have to pay for it out of taxes versus CDBG, which is not
Say-
our residents' money.
Yeah, I
say
get
it's
that.
$50,000, so now we have to come up with $50,000, whereas if it's CDBG, we spend, 4 grand on something, and then we can get it through the CDBG program. So I mean, that's the,
No. I guess we have to go that way then.
On these types of projects, when you're dealing with federal funds, unfortunately, the prices always triple.
yeah,
And even when you're doing with town work, in taxpayer dollars, we have to pay prevailing wage. And so the cost is double. So, these things are unfortunate. But if the town wants to utilize whatever was recommended for either repair or replace, for these steps, you want to utilize the CDBG program, which we have some funds that are, that are uncommitted at the moment that could potentially be used for this project. We have to follow their guidelines to get a engineer, a design, an assessment, a study done, before we can go to, you know, go to a company and say, let's do the repair.
Yeah, I mean, they always do planning, design, construction.
Correct.
That's the three steps they always do with this, so this is the planning.
Yeah.
I agree with you. It seems like a waste of money, but
The other
It's
way,
the
the
only
other
way
way,
we can get
what's
the
gonna,
money
what's
to
gonna,
do it.
what's gonna happen in 10 years? We're gonna have to pay for it.
and that's the thing. That's my worry is because we put money into these stairs to help these businesses for whatever reason at that time, for private businesses, okay? And now we own this project, so we have to keep up on it, keep it fixed. Because it wasn't handicapped accessible or whatever, you know, which if the businesses wanted to do business, they should have done that themselves, but we did it. Now we gotta pay for it. That's just my.
Sure. Can we put in, when we repair them so that they are perfect, put in a legal document saying it is now the businesses to keep them up?
I'm not, it's town property.
Yeah, I mean,
You can't-
you'd have to.
Oh, it is town property?
It is,
The
so
stairs?
the,
The
our
sidewalk.
property stops at their door, their front. So
Okay.
those stairs are all our town property, no matter what they look like. And then everything on the other side of that is the businesses.
Okay, I didn't realize that it came that close to the building.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's right up against,
Then it's
because they had
ours.
issues with that too. They had issues going right up against, but that's what it was, so. So that's why I don't, I mean, even if we tore it apart and put the old way back, we still own it.
Well-
I mean, it's, right? It's our property, it's town property.
And why couldn't we? I
You'd have
think
to get
Mrs.
them-
Dusty could be onto something. Why couldn't we just, we're doing this, this is your property now, release the property to the property owner.
I think that would require a vote of town meeting to do something like that.
And the business owners have to be willing to buy, I mean, we'd have to sell it for like $1 or something, right? You have to have a monetary transaction. And if the business owner doesn't wanna buy the stairs, I don't know that we can even.
I'm just trying to think outside the box, because again, it seems like we've taken on this responsibility, and it's not really our responsibility.
Yeah,
It's,
I don't know. I think
it's the building owner's responsibility to maintain their
Yeah,
stairs.
it's-
It'd be like any other resident, you're telling us that we don't redo the stairs for the church, because we don't own the church, even though their stairs go down to our walkway, you know? But
Actually, we do own some of those stairs.
we own like the last 5 stairs.
I know, which are falling apart, which we are responsible to fix. It's another thing we have to deal with.
It just doesn't.
I.
Well, it looks like we could get away with not taxing the residents this time, because we're using
CDBG?
CGB funds. Let's get them fixed and hope for the best. And maybe then we can do like a bylaw saying you gotta take, care for the snow, care for this, care for minor repairs.
Well, part of the problem was the salt they used. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a bylaw.
So
Yeah.
something like that to
Yeah.
at least survive for a longer time.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, they'll always deteriorate, but yeah. More than-
Well, and that's the thing. Wasn't even our doing. Yeah, we don't know if the concrete was even that great, first of all.
Well, it's Mass DOT did it, so,
But it's also the sodium chloride that they dumped on it to melt the snow,
Yeah.
well, to melt the ice on the stairs, which dissolved the stairs and the metal screws and stuff for the toe guards. And those all came up. Now those are trip hazards and.
Is it a fact that we ask DOT Mass and say, hey, what you built over here, it's coming apart, what do we do now? Do they say like, you gotta fix it, it's yours? Do we have
Has
that?
anybody asked DOT?
I believe Chris Dunphy, who was involved in this project back in 2010, I asked him, I said, is this project still under any type of warranty? And he said, no.
Usually it's 1 year.
Yeah.
Warranties like this are 1 year and that's it.
So the contract or whatever happened, it says you must maintain these stairs forever.
Once they build it and leave,
We have to maintain it.
yeah.
So it would be a good idea to make some bylaws about taking care of the sidewalks, what to, not to put, what kind of salt to put, and try to maintain it as good as possible. And if something is really good, they have to report it before it gets to the point where we have to replace it.
Yeah.
Well, we did send letters to the occupants of the buildings not to use that type of product on the stairs because it dissolves the concrete.
Yeah.
I don't know if they stopped doing that or they continued
Well-
without us going out there or DPW going out there and checking. Are you using salt? Are you using sodium chloride?
If it ever happened, if you use it once, then it's done because the damage is over. So if they've
Yeah.
been using it for years and then suddenly they stop, it's not gonna fix. It's just gonna,
Yeah.
So do you put it on Jeremy and tell the people that own the building, don't touch the stairs because they're not yours, they're our responsibility?
Well, that might be the best way to do it. But they're worried about their customers coming upstairs.
That's
And
right.
that's the
And
thing.
they're
you're
Jeremy
gonna have-
hasn't got there yet,
Yep.
because there's like a million other things to do in a snowstorm.
And
So they got
sidewalks are
lots of
last.
stuff.
Yeah, so it is better that they do something, but, and you can, we can levy fines, or say, if you put this stuff on, then you're responsible for fixing it. I don't know, I'm not sure what to,
Yeah.
all right,
I just see it as being a money thing now, and
Yeah.
it's becoming, it costs a lot of money to maintain those stairs.
yeah.
how
And
much money do we have available to fix them?
Oh, I believe that there's quite a bit of money left for the CDBG projects that are unused money, a few $100,000. So, I mean,
Plus, if it was part of one of the grant cycles,
Yeah.
then it's whatever it costs. I mean, if it's 50,000, that would be one of the projects in the cycle.
I mean, they'd have to have a public hearing, they'd have to do all
Yeah.
the necessary stuff, reprogramming of funds, but that can be done.
All right, well, you wanna
let's
move on?
not make that mistake again
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah, let's move on, and if you're in agreement, at least to spend the 5,000 as Jim worded it,
Mr.
then we can
Chairman,
do that.
I don't know if it's appropriate or not. I think there was somebody in the public trying to ask a question?
Did you give up, or you wanna ask a question?
All right, Joe Condrat, resident. I believe it was the DOT who decided they wanted access ramps to the stores.
Yeah, handicap, that's right.
And so it's like 3 feet from the door of the store. That's the responsibility of the owner of the store. But the stairs, because they're technically town property, obviously, maybe you could get a longer screw to hold in the plates. I mean, there are cement screws.
So the problem
It's
is
not
the type of product that was put on it dissolved the concrete. It gets into, because when it dissolves, that water that's
Yeah.
left over now goes into all the little cracks and it dissolves the concrete.
So it
Eats
doesn't matter
up.
how deep
So
the
it
screw
doesn't,
goes.
it just lifts up.
Yeah, it'll dissolve the
Yeah.
top of it.
I know I did it to my back step.
Yeah, I use it on a little concrete pad behind my house and it ate it.
Yeah.
I was surprised how quickly and
Oh,
how
yeah.
much damage
It
did.
does serious damage, and
Yeah.
if, all you need is, in the summertime, it's acid rain, forget it, it's gone.
The stuff works, just it's not friendly to concrete.
All right, so,
It might also be one of these problems like in eastern Mass where concrete foundations are dissolving. It's something that's mixed with the concrete that is
No, I don't-
inappropriate.
yeah, no, I think if you use the right product on it, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It was the use of the wrong product. The other stuff is that pyrite
Yeah.
stuff that dissolves, yeah. All right, so let's move on. Do you want to make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion.
Okay, you can do, so
5,000.
moved if you want.
I'll make a motion to use $5,000 of the Community Development Block Grant miscellaneous funds to retain engineering services to develop a cost estimate.
No bid plans, no.
Was that?
Get rid of the bid plans.
Cost estimate and
And spec.
specs for downtown concrete stairs improvement project.
Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor?
David Dufresne, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye.
Rich Hacker, aye. Okay.
Block grant, not grand.
Yeah.
All right, review of any new articles for the June 12th special town meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packets this evening, there is a new addition, a new article for, we're anticipating a bill coming in for Civic Plus. We don't know the exact dollar amount as of yet. That was not accounted for in our FY '25 budget. And so we're looking to transfer from legal expenses to information technology.
Okay, any questions? Sounds good to me.
This is for Civic Plus.
Yeah.
This for the last year that we paid, or for the going forward?
I'm not sure if they bill us backwards or if it's
I'm
forwards.
not sure either, and I sent a letter to them saying, I have not received your bill. You did this to me a couple of years ago, you didn't send it to me until February of the next year.
Oh, yeah, right. we did.
So, I need it, and I need it now, and they sent me a thing, said they're working on it. But they also said in their email, which I did not understand, they're working on our contract too. So I'm going, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, I'm not really happy with Civic.
Who are these guys?
Civic
This is
Plus
our
is
website.
our website.
Yeah.
So
Not
I
only is
will,
this website a nightmare to use, but
They are a nightmare.
they are a nightmare, yes.
so I will reach out to them on Tuesday and make sure we know exactly as it's going forward. If we are out of contract come, the end of June, then we have until the end of June. But I'll find that information out. I just received that email right before the meeting.
All right. That's the only new
Do we
article?
know how much?
No, we
How
don't.
much-
We
How
haven't
much
gotten
was
the bill
last
yet.
time?
It was about $3,000.
$3,000. We should put a
Just to
counter,
host,
Hosting, yeah.
just
and
for
it's
host.
5,000 to develop a whole website, maintain,
No, it's closer to 10.
No, it was like
Yeah.
$9,500. Yeah.
but once, after they develop it,
Oh,
the
Yeah.
hosting dropped down to,
2,500 or 2,200 or something like that.
yeah, but with a potentially better site, so.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm also working on getting them, Civic Plus, and one other company in front of you guys, hopefully, relatively soon, whether it be next week or the following meeting, to make some presentations, so.
Okay. All right. So this next one was going to be tabled if Derek wasn't here, but now he's here. So discussion with possible vote of determination by the appointing authority, us, on Joyce Ihacker being able to participate and vote on Next Gen's request to apply herbicide to eradicate invasive Japanese knotweed. And I will say that Joyce is in a butter, and that's why this is coming up, and you have a thing here to look at. And I'm in a butter, and it's Joyce, so I'm gonna recuse myself from the discussion and the vote.
Mr. Chairman, if you want to recognize me, I did talk to Joyce about this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So Joyce had reached out to me with regards to the concerns of a quorum for conservation and having the ability to also discuss the matter, given the fact that she's in a butter in possibly there could be some potential viewed conflicts. So I had recommended to her to reach out to the State Ethics Commission, which she did. They provided this form to her that she has to fill out, which she did. And the appointing authority, which is the Board of Selectmen, for her position, would have to make a determination as to whether or not they felt as though that there is any, that Mrs. Ihawker has some type of financial interest, in this matter.
So go ahead and discuss, gentlemen.
So, Mr. Vice Chair, first of all, does Mrs. Ihawker have any financial interest in this?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay,
We don't get paid on,
correct. Conservation doesn't get paid. There's no benefit to her. And personally, I don't even know what a Japanese knotweed is, or why we hate it.
I will ask Joyce about it.
I would refer to Joyce in this matter, no matter what, because she is the expert on this. She is the chair, is she still the chair of conservation? She is the chair of conservation. She is the subject matter expert who we would go to for this, on this type of issue and herbicides, because I don't know about that stuff. And I think she would be the best person to use anyways.
Agree.
So I have no problem with Mrs. Ihawker moving forward and representing the town on this. Again, there's no financial interest in it. She has no benefit. And I see that would benefit her. I don't see an issue.
Me neither. I think she's a professional, way above the expertise, and who better than to do that job?
And I hope she's not watching this meeting. She's gonna get like an ego from this. But she is truly the best person to handle this, so. I can make a motion to approve this and allow the vice chair to sign on behalf of the chairman.
Yes,
of the
sir.
selectmen. Okay. So, I'll make a motion to allow Joyce Ihawker to represent conservation in the town of Warren, correct?
And the board has determined that there is no financial interest sustained by deeming Mrs. Ihawker to serve in this capacity.
And said moved with allowing the vice chair to sign on behalf of the select board.
I second that. All in
All.
favor?
David Dufresne, aye?
Derek Bailey's aye. Motion approved.
Okay, thank you.
All right, number 4. Discussion on a summer meeting schedule.
No
So-
meeting,
No meetings at all?
no meeting on summer.
No meeting during the summer? I'm
too
good with
hot.
returning with every other week like we did before.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea.
Unless an agenda item comes up that has to be addressed.
Yeah, we
Like
can
we
make
did last
ourselves,
time,
we can make ourselves available.
yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, before you, per our conversation that we had, I put together a draft of a schedule. If we meet next week, which is the 22nd, which would allow us to sign the STM warrant and close it out.
okay.
And then 2 weeks later, we'll meet on the 5th. Then a week later is the special and the annual. And then 2 weeks later is the public safety complex meeting. We could potentially have a meeting of cleaning up any business at 5 before the public safety. And then 2 weeks after that, and then 2 weeks after that, all the way till September 4th. And then on September 4th, we could return to our regular meetings.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Are you good with that?
Yeah, I'm good. And actually, it's good because I'm gonna be away a lot. In July,
I might not be here. for
going to
the-
the tropics.
I didn't see any leave requests from you.
Certainly none were approved.
None were approved, that's for sure.
All right. Okay. Well, is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the select board move to a summer schedule as proposed by the town administrator for the Board of Selectmen.
Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor?
David Dufresne, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye.
Richi Hacker, aye. Warrants and bills. Mr. Belize.
Accounts payable, number 45, 179.
Can I,
Hun-
you need to make a motion.
I'm not used to that.
It says it right there. Make a
Okay,
motion.
make a motion to approve the following warrants. Accounts payable, number 45, 179,124.83.
Is
I'll
there a
second
second? All in favor?
David Dufresne, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye.
Richi Hacker, aye.
You okay with it?
Yes. I'm actually gonna bring some reading glasses. They call it the emergency glasses. We'll put it on the bottom drawer. So every time
I'm sorry, you having a hard time reading the tiny print?
No.
Okay, then you have to make. Can you read that?
Make a motion to pay the following bills. Thank you. Turley Publications, $180. Verizon Fax and Phone, $534.57. Stericycle, $126.80. Comcast Business, $279.89. American Tower, $2,379.52. Vanpool, $4,535.77. National Grid, $69.13. C2MA Adams,
Adam, sorry.
Adams, 2 LLC, $1,929.18. Masscore, $2,642.45. Weston and Sampson, $29,042.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
David Dufresne, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye.
Richi Hacker, aye. Motion approved. All right, minutes. So we have minutes from May 1st.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for May 1st, 2025 meeting.
Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor?
David Dufresne, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye.
Richi Hacker, aye. Motion approved. Town Administrator report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have a couple of things I'd like to report to the board this week. The roof project over at the senior center, the materials have been dropped off. They are secured. I want to thank Jimmy McKeon and Mike Corenzo for helping us rope off that area over there to secure the dumpster, the materials. The roofers were delayed because of the rain that we had last week. They were delayed on other projects, so they're hoping to start tomorrow. They've requested to start tomorrow. I've okayed them to start tomorrow and to work over the weekend if necessary to get the job done. They are going to be taking care of that roof hopefully tomorrow, weather permitting. I've scheduled our next department head meeting for next Wednesday, the 21st at 9 a.m. We're going to be talking about the upcoming special and annual town meeting warrants, making sure departments are ready for any potential questions that may come up at the STM or the ATM. Going through the budget, making sure everybody's comfortable with what is being presented. Talking about FY25 year-end closeout. We're going to be heading into the month of June very shortly, and that's going to be a year-end closeout time, making sure departments are processing any fiscal year bills for '25, making sure that all of their budgets are in line. If they need a line item transfer, working with the FinCom because of their meeting schedule, making sure that they are aware of when they're going to be meeting so that any of those types of items can be addressed. We're also going to be talking about some upcoming staff training. I've been working with Dan Thibodeau just this week. We had a discussion. Dan is a certified trainer on many OSHA faceted programs, and he's volunteered to offer some trainings for highway and sewer. And I think it would be wise of us to take him up on the offer, and to make sure that staff are attending those trainings, because those are required trainings. And so he's volunteered to do that. We're going to be coming up with a syllabus and a schedule for the board to look at, and to be asking the board that employees are required to participate in this program, because we feel as though it would be very helpful for the town and for the staff. We're going to talk about employee evaluations. It's up and coming. That time of year, getting the employee evaluations. We're going to be kicking them off on the 21st, getting people ready, department heads getting them ready to do their employee evaluation. We're going to be also talking about our next coming up project. Now that we finished the wage compensation plan project, we got another grant, as you may recall, for an employee policy and procedure manual. The town does not have one. We're going to be looking and soliciting for a company, probably most likely the Collins Center, to help us out drafting one. We've got a grant to pay for that, and we're going to be kicking off that project very soon. And I wanted to get departments ready to answer any questions and be prepared for that. We're also going to be going over departmental monthly reports. I noticed that when I started these monthly reports, I would be getting, a lot from departments, and now it's kind of weaned out with some of the stuff that they've been doing. I know everybody's been very busy, but I want to get departments back on track with providing me with monthly updates so that I can report them to the board, and they can be incorporated into my monthly report. We're going to go over procurement requests and how departments should be handling those. Especially if we've done a procurement 3 years ago and now the procurement is expired. Departments who were requesting that procurement should be notifying me that, hey, look, by the way, that contract that we had for fuel or oil, it expired. Make a formal request in writing that we're going to go out to bid again for those contracts, so we can keep a ticker of whatever department may have for procurement requests. And that really should be the responsibility of departments to get that over to me. I know that it's time sensitive and different things, but procurement processes is very, very, very daunting and is time consuming. So the better heads up we have, the better that we can get that product out there. Tomorrow I'm going to be continuing interviews for our admin position. We have 2 more interviews scheduled for tomorrow. I will keep the board updated on those. I did receive a correspondence from Dario Nardi, our town moderator, and he had indicated in his email that he would like to change the way in which motions are presented at town meeting. And instead of having departments come up one by one and individually reading the motions, he's making the recommendation after talking to our town clerk, as she had suggested how other towns handle this, is that the moderator reads all the motions. He feels as though that that it could, save time. And he wanted to propose this new process for this year. And he had written me an email, and he wanted me to share this information with the Board of Selectmen. As well as,
Are you gonna send us the email?
yes, I will, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So,
yeah,
quick question
yeah.
on that.
Mhm.
He's the town moderator,
Mhm.
and he's running
It's his meeting.
the meeting.
Meeting, yeah.
So he can make any change he wants, and if he says he'll be reading the motions, he can do that.
Yeah, we can't really say anything.
He just wanted me to share that with the
Courtesy.
board as a courtesy.
Yeah, okay.
Just to, change it, to let the board know that there'd be a little bit of a change this year.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Mhm.
I actually like the idea, because if in the public there's somebody who doesn't like one of us, it changes the behavior of the article.
It takes the emotion out of it.
Exactly, it's more neutral, it's not, it doesn't become personal one-to-one.
Mhm. Yeah, it's good.
And next week, we are having also, at our meeting next week, will be the final presentation, and they'll be doing it via Zoom. Our Wrights Mills Master Recovery Plan will be presented to the board. This week, we've been working on closeouts of some grants. The Wrights Mill EDA grant is one of them, as well as some other reporting requirements for some of the other grants that we are currently in the process of going through. And we'll be looking forward to some of these other projects that we are working on, such as the roof at the senior center, as well as next week, all of the computers that have to be wiped clean of the hard drives. Entree is going to be coming on the 21st to pick them up. They're all secured in my office. We've got them all back. We're going to be recycling those and getting certificates for the hard drives for our files, and they're going to be picking those up. I haven't had any departments come back and say that they've missed any files or anything.
Good.
So it looks like the transfer was pretty successful, because we've been now over a month with holding on to those
Yeah.
since the install happened. So
Yeah, I mean, you had said 2 weeks, but actually.
2 weeks, yeah.
I'm glad it was a month,
Yeah.
just because,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't use a file.
yeah, so
You know.
I think it's
frequently.
fair enough to
Yeah.
move on from now. And we also have a dumpster out back. We're doing, a spring clean out. And we're just getting, any stuff that's, broken, trash, old broken furniture that we can get rid of. We feel as though that there's quite a few things that we can kind of, clean it up, and Mike's been going through and handling that, so. It's been working out pretty good, and I know the police department had some things that they could, had some broken chairs and different things that they could get rid of, and we've been, utilizing the dumpster, and it will be full very soon. So
Okay.
already almost full.
All right.
We must have filled up like 10 dumpsters over the
I
past
know, I
couple of
keep thinking,
years.
like, how much spring cleaning?
We've done a lot of spring cleaning over
Yeah.
the years. Mr. Dusty knows that well.
It was 20 tons when we had that major push.
Wow.
20 tons of stuff.
Well, if you guys remember, when I started, we couldn't even get into that room
Yeah.
or sit for a meeting.
All right, is that it?
Yes, yes, sir.
Any questions?
Good job.
All right.
Good job, sir.
Thank you.
Is there any new business?
No, sir.
Any old business?
I got my mouse.
Excellent.
Check that off the things to do list.
I'm not gonna go through this items to follow-up list, but is there anything that stands out? We don't have to go through the whole thing.
Just one thing, talking to the veteran agent.
The flags.
She says she does not think she's gonna get the flags that time. It usually takes about 6 weeks to get them.
We can only hope.
It is what it is.
If
She
not,
would-
we'll have them
she-
for July 4th.
She did call him and see if she could, if they happen to have him on, but she says it's not looking good.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other old business?
The desk?
The 22nd, we've already scheduled it was supposed to be a surprise, but the 22nd, Steve Crystal has arranged for a delivery. We've confirmed it. I've confirmed it with Jeremy. He's going to have some of his crew come over to help assemble it. So hopefully the night of the 22nd, you'll have,
So next Thursday.
yeah, new desks.
Wow.
So what are we doing with these?
These, if a department could use them, or,
There's a pretty good
You know.
dumpster out there that needs to be filled.
If not, they need to go down in the boxing room because there's no room in the archive room.
I mean, maybe we could put one, one up in that veterans office upstairs. I don't know if historical could use one.
I mean, they're good.
I mean, they're not bad.
Yeah.
Right drawer. That's the only thing you need to save.
Yeah. There's stuff in here.
You know what I'm putting out, right?
What?
The mallet.
There's no mallet.
What happened
Oh,
to it?
this is the mallet.
The gavel. Your gavel.
You should have used that earlier today.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Oh, God, you bring the gavel back.
Absolutely. All right, correspondence. So there was having a public hearing, the Department of Public Utilities.
National Grid.
Does anybody know what this is about? It's 5 pages of stuff.
It's
I
their
know.
compliance plan.
Climate compliance plan.
Most likely, it has something to do with raising fees again for some reason, right? Or they having a Zoom meeting.
On June 4th and June 5th, yeah.
All right.
I know in the eastern part of the state, they're mandating the electric meters, and they're charging the residents for the meters. And they're adding it to their bills.
Yeah.
So they're making them
Big
get the
surprise.
electric meters, and then they're charging them to identify the usage too.
Yeah.
So they're adding a meter monitoring fee. So I don't know if that has anything to do with this, but that was another thing that was added in there, and I'm like, great, bills are going up again on that side, but,
Yeah.
you know, we'll see.
And most of it has to do with Boston Gas.
All right, we have a letter about the Hamden Police Station.
Anonymous, wasn't it? No.
I think it was from Donald Nielsen, I think was the resident. I'm not 100% sure, but he has written me in the past, and he had brought in some concern about the potential public safety complex, and he wanted to draw, the board's attention to the safety complex that was built in the town of Hamden back in 2016. In the cost that it cost to build that facility, which was about $2.2 million at that time.
In 2016.
That's 2016, and that was for 6,800 square feet. The facility that we're looking for just on the police side, I think is somewhere around a little over 10,000 square feet.
Yeah, okay.
So, I'm not sure what their facility has or doesn't have, but, I understand that, the town of Hamden is comparable in size. They're probably a wealthier community than us as well. However, I don't know if what their police station is as compared to what, our needs are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's not necessarily apples to apples, right?
Right.
Okay. All righty, any questions? Okay, comments and concerns?
I have a comment. Can we get the digital documents, any CAD drawing from the architect who designed the safety complex?
There wasn't really a design, there was just, I mean, I can get, you
The
know.
floor plan.
The
The
floor plans,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
3D, anything that, we can elaborate from there.
Yeah.
And for the,
What type of format would you like?
I don't know what they used. They probably they could be hand drawings, or they could be CAD drawings, or they could be Revit drawings.
I mean,
don't know.
would you want them in a PDF?
I would like the original file. If it's a
Oh,
CAD file, that would
okay.
be great. That
Okay.
way we can, because that's the value
Okay.
on a project, and then we put it in a safe place. So in the future, they can relate to the drawings.
Sure.
And then if this moves forward, if it doesn't move forward now, but it moves forward later, then the company who's gonna build it, they're gonna ask for that.
Right. I'm sure we can get them from Tech Time.
Anything else?
No, I got my mouse,
You're a happy camper.
yeah.
All right.
You're so easy to please.
Yeah.
a
Comments
happy
and
boy.
concerns? Ray?
Ray Capaco, resident. Couple of quick comments. On the moderator reading the motions on the articles for the town meeting, that's a good idea. But just as I'm sure will happen, just to emphasize that the department heads should still be present to address the articles and ready to do so, not just present, but ready to do so. So, but I think that's a good idea. Second comment. There was a lot of discussion with the board about the sidewalk repair, the step repair. I think the board really needs to come to a consensus about that. There was all kinds of comments that it's the business responsibility versus the town's responsibility. I'll refrain from making a suggestion, but you guys need to come to a consensus and be certain about what you're saying about the responsibility and whose it is. Thank you.
So with that in mind, could you check with John and see, when we do a project like that, what the outcome looks like? Who's
Sure.
responsible? In this case, I don't know, Karen mentioned the first 3 feet out of the building. I don't know if that's true or not, but,
No, Joe mentioned that.
oh, you did,
Joe
okay.
did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We can
So,
find out.
Yeah, let's get the parameters, because that's
Sure.
important.
Yeah, I-
Mhm.
Yeah, it'd be good to know what our actual responsibility is for
Mhm.
Yeah.
those stairs, because DOT built them, and it just,
Maybe I can have that included in the assessment,
Sure. Yeah.
by the engineer, that they can make a determination.
Also, do we still have the plans?
I'm not sure.
I think that we probably did like 25% plans or 75% plans, and then it went into the tip, and then DOT took it over. So I don't know we wouldn't have final plans.
There should be an existing condition plans,
As built?
Yeah.
as-built
as-built.
plans.
I don't know if we would've got, but again, maybe John knows where we can get those.
Sure.
Because, well, at that point, it wasn't a CDBG project anymore. So,
But if they made them, they could send us a copy.
Mhm. Okay.
so if
Is
DOT
that-
took those over, how do we even know if it's still our responsibility? And they didn't just hand it off to somebody else, the owner?
I'm just going by what Chris Dunphy had said. you
Yeah,
know,
I
that-
would see, because that's kind of a good point. Let's make sure
Mhm.
it's even our responsibility still,
yeah,
because that could change things too.
yeah, yeah.
You know why it's important to have the plans? Because whoever's gonna come and say, we're gonna repair that, do you have plans? No, okay, so I'm gonna have to charge you more for that and do the plans. Because they have to pull a permit.
Rich, is the steps part of the revamp of downtown?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
The
think-
traffic patterns.
I think I have a file in the office for that, but I'm
Okay.
not sure.
Okay.
And I don't know what it consists of. It could just be paperwork. I don't know if it's plans and everything.
Yeah, okay, yeah, check that out. All right. Anybody else? Thank you, Ray.
Joe Condrat, resident. I'd like to notify you that in Massachusetts, there are a bunch of three-letter federal agencies. Obviously, they're doing sweeps throughout the state. We do not want any resident to impede those agencies. To do so, you can be arrested and end up in a federal prison for 6 years. I've come to understand that it's not only ICE that's involved. DEA is also involved, FBI. So they are looking for something else than illegal aliens. On another note, supposedly tomorrow, Providence, Rhode Island, is going to take down the flag over their local state house and raise the Palestinian flag. Under the original flag protocols, no flag is to fly above the American flag. They have to be lower. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? All right. Is there a motion? Oh, next meeting, May 22nd at 6 PM. And maybe this room will look a little different,
Maybe.
but we're not saying anything, maybe.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?
David Dufresne, aye.
Derek Bailey's aye.
Richi Hacker, aye.